I am Jazzie Carrington, and this is my show, What's Hot with Jazzie. I am introducing you to the hottest, most innovative people around the nation, and including my favorite things and also Jazzie's take. Put it all together, and you've got What's Hot with Jazzie. So, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Hi, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to What's Hot with Jazzie. I'm Jazzie Carrington, and thank you for tuning in to What's Hot with Jazzie today because I have such a special show for you. I am so excited. I have been wanting to do this show for some time now. And now I have my amazing special guest that is going to help me do this. I am here with therapist, mental health professional who specializes in Black men's mental health as well as Black families. And I absolutely love it. I am here with Marc Hardy.
Thank you.
Hey, Marc. Oh,
Hey
gosh. Oh, my gosh, you guys. I'm so excited, Marc. Well, the first thing, I'm going to turn you a little bit around more to the camera.
All right.
Because the first thing, I really want you to explain to the viewers actually what you actually do.
Okay. I am a licensed clinical mental health counselor and supervisor. What that means is that I was trained and went to school. I have an undergrad in psychology. I minored in African American studies and human resource development. And then I went on to get a master's in counselor education. Once I got that master's, then I had to do 2,500 hours of supervised clinical experience to get my license. So I had to do some things to become a nationally certified counselor, and then to get the license. It used to be called a licensed professional counselor. Because of the clinical nature, I'm able to diagnose and to actually provide therapy. It was changed to licensed clinical mental health counselor and supervisor. I've been doing this long enough also where I have a license to be a supervisor, so I actually train folks to be clinicians also.
I love it. So, like I was saying in the introduction, I had really been looking forward to doing this show, talking about mental health, especially around among people of color. And I wanted a real mental health professional.
I'm real.
I didn't. I love it. And that's why you're here, because I wanted someone who really understands about mental health. This is not a joke. And I don't think we talk about this enough in our communities. This is just how I feel. And one of the things that, oh my God, that I was so impressed with when I met you is that you specialize in therapy with Black men. And we know how difficult it is for Black men to see a therapist. Majority. So it seems.
Yes.
See, Marc trying to help me with my language, with my lingo. He said, we gotta change this. So I'm listening to Marc because he knows what he's talking about. But so it seems. What do you think about right now with everything going on, the things that we're seeing going on as far as Black men? Do you think more Black men now are opening up to getting therapy, getting the help that they need to for any type of healing that they need to do, whether it's, from childhood to whatever is going on even now?
Yeah, I do think that Black men, in addition to just ethnic groups that may have been stereotyped that they don't go to therapy, I do feel like there's less of a negative stigma around it. So they feel more comfortable reaching out to the resource of therapy and counseling. You may hear in my voice it being very slow and deliberate because I think counseling and therapy is more about the relationship. What does the work in therapy is my therapeutic relationship with the person.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
So we do that with our friends. We do that with our families. And we have that connection. And that's the biggest part of it. There has to be a sense of connection, which comes from a sense of safety. Safety meaning it's predictable that this person will sit in space with me and I can share. They'll accept what I'm sharing, preferably non-judgmentally. And there'll be a dance or an interaction that we do that feels comfortable and doesn't feel like I have to put my protections up as much. Wow. So we might have that with family and everything, but that's the difference, is that they're not trained to be able to do some of those techniques that create that sense of safety and that sense of connection.
And let's talk about that training. Mm-hmm. I'm so happy you brought this up. This is great. I've been wanting to ask these questions for so long and to express this. One of the things that I have even said this to friends is that you have to understand. And this is when I was in therapy. When I first went into therapy, my therapist said to me, and she said it just like that. She says, I'm not one of your little friends. This is not that you come like you're on the phone with a girlfriend or one of your buddies. I am a licensed, trained therapist. Yeah. And one of the things that I noticed, and just for me, like briefly when I was in college, that was my major, psychology. And one of the things that I noticed is because you are trained to study the human mind. So a person can be you just did it with me. Y'all, Marc got here. We supposed to be doing the show. I'm up here having a therapy session. He's like, girl, make an appointment. Okay. So anyway, but one of the things that I noticed, because they're trained. So when you're talking, they literally can just get right in that mind and just pluck whatever.
A big part of what I do is remain curious. Sue Johnson, she's a great person that created emotionally focused therapy, a type of emotion focused therapy. And that's the type modality I use the most. And there's an emphasis on having conversations for connection. And she speaks about the acronym ARE. A is accessibility. R is responsiveness. And responsiveness doesn't mean you have an answer for everything that's said. It means you remain curious. Accessibility means that you're there. You actually are physically present, but also mentally present with the person. R, responsive. Like I said, it means more about being curious. I'm curious about your emotional experience, and that's what I'm able to connect to. And then E is emotionally engaged. When that emotion shows up, that anger, that sadness, that grief, that resentment, those tough, distressing emotions that show up, we're still able to stay emotionally engaged with that. I can be able to say, ooh, I get why you're angry. Doesn't mean I agree with it. Just means that, ooh, I can understand, which is validating. When a person feels validated, then they can show up, they can remain accessible. So that's what comes to my mind is conversations that have those qualities in there. Those are very therapeutic.
I love that.
I don't know if I answered your question.
You did. I love when you said that we can have those conversations, those emotions, but stay engaged. Where when you're just dealing with human interaction and people are just going off of their emotions and their thoughts, and then they just decide, I give up.
Yeah.
And then it just becomes worse.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I think in our community, we do that more than not.
And that's where the training comes in.
Yeah.
That response that you said, I just give up. My eyes say, oh, the person's flooded. That means that their nervous system has gotten to a capacity level where it can't help but do something to protect itself, to try to come back down.
Wow.
Right? Yeah. It's the same thing. I have a neighbor who has these beautiful, I think they're called Akita dogs, right? So I'm out cutting the grass and I go over a rabbit's nest. So there's little babies in there. They do a wonderful job making it so that the lawnmower won't cut them, but it took off the top of the nest and the babies are in there, so they all start running out. His dogs go and try to jump on the rabbits. There was one, I was like, oh, they got him. The rabbit was sitting there, looked like it was dead. It was about 30 minutes later, 40 minutes later, I look out the window and the rabbit peeks up. It takes off. That's a natural instinct to, it got flooded, danger, it played dead. Didn't play it, the body actually took over and made it. So it's like that. Our body's the same way. We can get into what's called a freeze response, or we get flooded when our body naturally will try to keep things at a balanced or homeostasis. When it's too much, it's going to shut it back down. So when I see somebody say, oh, I can't do this anymore.
Oh, wow.
That's when we're in session. I'm like, okay, let's slow it down. And we got to deal with the activation of the nervous system at that point. So that's why I practice somatic experiencing protocol also. Understanding of how to work with the vagus nerve and just the central nervous system, that it's a reality that when you get too much charge, your body will try to keep you at a status.
What is the vagus nerve? What is that?
Now, this is where we get into medical part. I'm not a medical doctor.
Right.
But there is a
just
nerve.
The overall,
My understanding of the vagus nerve is that it's a nerve that goes from the back of your head all the way down to your pelvic region. And it's the nerve that connects all your body parts. Wow. It connects to your stomach. It connects to all the parts of your body. And it's a wonderful thing because it's the part that can actually regulate your whole body, right?
Wow.
And it has different tones. So a dorsal tone is kind of like what people might call depression, right?
Oh, wow.
So I'm getting into these terms now. Now you take me back to my books, right?
Let's take it back to the school day.
But then there might be, so there's a dorsal tone that's kind of a low tone where it kind of feels like depression, but then there's a sympathetic charge where it's like, person just off the chain, just too much. And then there's the ventral tone where that's the type of tone, we get that kind of tone with the vagus nerve. From what I understand, like when we have social interactions, when we go to social events, just being connected to our community and everything, it makes the tone kind of in that ventral area. And that's kind of where we want to be most of the time because it kind of levels us out.
Yeah.
Sympathetic charge, there's a condition called global high intensive activation. And guess what? This is where it gets very specific and where my heart is at. Folks, people of color, Black men usually stay in a status where you're always ready. Matter of fact, in our community, it's kind of like, hey, you need to always know your environment.
Yeah,
you need
that's
to always
true.
be ready.
That's true.
You ain't got to get ready if you always ready, right? Those are all great terms and everything, but you like this all the time. What's up?
What we doing? Who that?
Right.
Who that? What's up?
It's called hypervigilance.
Oh, wow.
That's one of the indicators was one, you don't diagnose this yourself. This is why you go to a clinician that knows how to diagnose. But hypervigilant is one of those criteria to be met that is indicative of post-traumatic stress disorder.
Whoa.
The person has been in trauma. So that person is always like, yo, what's up? Like that. My eyes, I don't want to judge. So I'm kind of like, ooh, there might be some trauma in there.
And let's talk about that because we hear that so much now on social media. And you and I were just having this discussion, the terms, and we have to be careful with this, especially if you are not a professional. I keep hearing trauma bonding, trauma, narcissism, narcissists. Oh, they throw that around. And I did a short video one time, and I said, you do realize this is a mental illness, narcissistic disorder. So you can't just go around saying because you don't get your way or a person pisses you off or somebody is just being a jerk because that's just their character. Oh, they're just a narcissist, They don't want to take accountability, so they're a narcissist. No.
That's what a narcissist might say.
Right.
It's not me, it's them.
It's not me. It's them, right? But break it down for me, because I want you to break this down. I'm loving this, y'all. We're going to break this down today, okay? We're going to get into this today. Explain to people, number one, explain the definition of a narcissist and someone who has narcissistic disorder.
Okay. You're going to get Marc Hardy right now.
Okay.
Marc Hardy's going to say, I'm going to hesitate with defining that.
Okay.
Because it's very idiosyncratic. It's very much specific to the person. When you're doing diagnosing, you're dealing with what a person reports to you, first of all.
Okay.
All right. And you use a book that's called the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, version 5 is out now, where they have to meet a certain criteria. Right? There has to be certain behaviors that, and a certain number of those behaviors have to be present to even start with saying, okay, this person might be demonstrating this personality disorder. Narcissism is a personality disorder. Right? That's in a different category. The thing about diagnosing, though, is that this is what I love about the little cultural piece that's in there. You have to take into account the person's culture.
That's deep. Wait a minute now. Now break that down. That's a new one. That's a new
one that is really near and dear to my heart, and part of the reason why I do what I do. Is, and I'm not trying to generalize, so hear me out. This is my experiences with a few clients, 30 plus years of doing this that I've run into, is that Black men, a lot of times, get the diagnosis of schizophrenia. And it comes from not realizing the culture. If you are dealing with somebody in the hood that's an OG, he might say, oh, I'll fuck a nigga up. I was going to say that. But that's what I'm saying. We want to keep it real.
But that's real.
Right? The clinician might say, well, you know, if you were such and such and such, well, I'd kill him. Of course, like, duh. Right?
Unalive. We on YouTube.
Unalive. Right? So the whole thing is, what I'm getting at, a clinician that is not culturally aware could take that very understandable, if you live in the hood and the Bloods and the Crips are here and there and all that kind of stuff, yeah, you might say, I'll take them out.
Right.
But then a clinician might not put that into the cultural context and say, oh, homicidal ideations.
Ooh.
Right?
Ooh.
And boom, they might get a label. Right?
Look, Michael Jordan don't duck it.
Yeah. Narcissism, right?
Yes.
One of the criteria or one of the behaviors is called delusions of grandeur. Right? How many times have you looked in the mirror and said, yeah, I'm the stuff. I'm the stuff. And you got a booger in your nose. Right? Right? And,
or did your affirmations.
Right. Affirmations, and that's all good until it becomes a delusion.
Right.
I'm the best thing since sliced bread. I'm perfect. Everybody else is beneath me.
But that's supposed to be your manifestation.
Right. So that's what I love doing what I do. Because it's like I get the manifestations and affirmation and everything. But that's the difference. difference.
Yes.
The difference is if the person is able to say, okay, I'm in touch with reality. I may say that.
Yes.
And that's a good thing. And that's helping my mental health to have affirmations. But I can still look in the mirror and say, I'm not perfect.
Right.
In a relationship, I can say, I'm sorry. I did this wrong. It's not all just you. That type of thing.
And something that I love that you said to me before we started the show, because yes, I was taking up Marc's time. He's like, girl, no, I'm just playing with y'all. But one of the things that I love that you said to me, you said, one person's perception is their truth. Y'all, I'm going to use that.
Yeah.
Man, when I tell you, break that down, I love that you said one person's perception is their truth. And when you say culturally in therapy, because really, if someone's not used, like you said, to somebody, it does essentially become a perception that they turn into a diagnosis.
Because
that's
the label.
just, yeah. So
that's where you're bringing up a good point. I strongly advocate for a licensed clinician, so you can not have to deal with being labeled, stereotypes, things like that. But the statement that I made was in reference to the statement that a lot of people say, perception is reality. I say,
no, it's not.
Heard that and everything, but I kind of modify it and say, a person's perception is their reality. That's true. A person is going to believe, they're going to see it through their eyes, through their experiences, and that's going to be their reality. Just because I say the sky is purple, what I'd love for it to be. But in Carolina, just because I say it's purple, don't mean it's purple. It's going to be Carolina blue, right?
Yeah.
Right. So a person's perception is their reality. And in therapy, whether individually or with a couple, that's one of the main things that we do focus on is that person's cognitions, their perceptions. And we allow the space to say, oh, okay, I get that. I understand that. ARE. I'm accessible to hearing what you believe. I'm curious about responsive. My responsiveness is like, okay, let me be open and just really understand where you're coming from. Let me understand you. Okay, that makes sense that you would think that way, that it's purple. I get it. you're a Q, and so you want everything to be purple. So I get it, right? Emotionally engaged. When I start saying, and it is purple, and you need to get rid of everything, the anger shows up and everything.
Right.
I can say, okay, I get it. You're a Q. You think the sky is purple, and you get angry about it. Understandable. By the time you do that, I'm like, okay, at least you get where I'm coming from. Then I start thinking about, well, it does look kind of blue today. Validation happens. Understanding happens. A person's perception is their reality. And if we can tune in to their perception and allow it to be acceptable. That's how you think. Oh, you don't even want to say it that way. Well, I see why you think that way. So you start using that you word, it starts to get into me over here, you over there.
I love how you talk about the language.
Yeah.
We don't think about that. Even when you and I were talking, and then I changed my language and you were like, see, listen to that. The language. And, I'm like, wow, you know what? That is true. That is so true. Now, what I want, the next thing, trauma. People are always talking about, oh, it sounds like you're trauma bonding. You're trauma bonding. First of all, what is trauma bonding? Because I didn't hear that until Instagram. Because I was like, I ain't never heard nothing about no trauma bonding. I'm like, what is that? Like, I don't get that. Like, when I'm talking to someone and I'm engaging with people, I don't think about, oh, we're trauma bonding. What?
Yeah. Well, this is another area where I'm going to give my understanding of what I believe it is. And it's only because my first thing is to go to some empirically validated resource to answer the question. But I don't have no books here right now and all that kind of stuff. Even with the diagnosing part, I'm going to go to my DSM-5 before I say, boom, this is that. Right. So the same thing with this definition, trauma bonding. First of all, what comes to my mind is the bond part. Is that when we have an experience that goes to the level of our central nervous system, it impacts us that way. It creates a memory. It creates an experience. It's a felt experience. I want to talk about it this way. I can maybe go this way. Anybody watching, you can think about, we are hardwired for connection as human beings. We need to feel connected. We need to feel safe in that connection. And when we feel that connection, there's a bond that happens. We can feel it to our soul, right? I say it in Black people's terms. We go to the soul level, right? We can feel it in our spirit, right? Yeah. You know, or what's that phrase that we use quite a bit? It's like, game recognizes game. Yeah. Stuff like that. I'm going off on a tangent. It's okay. Right. That's why I like emotionally focused therapy also, because I think it's very culturally attuned. Mm-hmm. It speaks to people of color that is part of a culture where we feel is where we get our information. If I say the term, and I say this in my consultations all the time, you feel me? Mm-hmm. Everybody's like, oh, got it. We speak in high contextual terms. So bonding. Yes, it's a felt sense of connection when we bond. Even that grandmother or grandfather that's passed on, is not here physically. I could easily say, you can still feel that person now. That's because there was a bond that actually happened. There was actually a felt sensation of connection that I believe stays in our body forever, right? So when I think about trauma bonding, that two people can come together and they might actually find connection over the fact of the shared experience of a trauma. Now, when I use the word trauma, I have a large window for that. There's the clinical level, according to the DSM-5. I call that big T trauma. That's the trauma where you had a gun pointed at your head and you almost died. Or you witnessed somebody being killed. And we're not talking about... Right. You too. Got it. Or had a bang bang pointed at your head. Right. Okay. Got it. YouTube lingo. Oh, got it. I get the YouTube lingo. And that's what I'll use as an example of small T trauma. Mm-hmm. My body's going like this, right? Oh, I made a mistake. Oh, right. Right. That's little T trauma. When your body can't complete the fight or flight response, mm-hmm. or that response your body has when, there's some threat. Doesn't matter if it's real or perceived, your body will prepare itself, right? That's what I call small T because it's trauma. Reacting to what the trauma that you've already experienced, mm-hmm. that's still there. Right. There's a theorist, Peter Levine. I think that's him. He wrote a book, I believe it's called The Body Keeps the Score. Mm-hmm. When we have experiences in life, it's not just a cognitive thing. It's a felt experience. I don't have to explain to everybody, when you feel love, when you feel grief, emotions are felt. There's a felt sense of these different things. Oh, mm-hmm. No, so that's where a clinician comes in, though. You have an experience that has a very strong impact on you. Yeah, there's a book, the DSM-5, that a clinician would be able to say, okay, you have experienced a clinical level of trauma. Right. And so therefore, they would look for, symptoms of PTSD, and you would get that diagnosis. Me being a somatic experiencing practitioner, I open it up much larger. that anytime my body is naturally wanting to say something, I'm excited about this and I so much want to say this, but you're in church and they, shh, be quiet. You can't talk. The usher comes to get you. Right? You see some of my
which
my
we've
history
experienced
coming in.
that quite a bit in our community.
Right.
And and it's something when you said there was someone I was listening to on YouTube who's I was enjoying the show, and one of the things he was doing a story, and he was doing a story about this lady recently who had unfortunately unalived her husband.
Okay.
African American lady. And when the police came, she told the police that I know that it was wrong. I know I shouldn't have did this, but I was tired. And one of the things he said was, with the Black community, when she said that, maybe everyone else really would have been like, what are you talking about? But we get it. We get it. Because in that moment, we knew she had been through some things with that man. We knew she had been through some things because it's a way that we speak. It's a way that we communicate within our communities that we get it.
So let me ask about that. I know I have my answer.
Not saying it was right what she did, but I'm just saying
so
that
part example that you're using.
Yeah.
Would you call that trauma bonding then? Wait
a minute, Michael Jordan now. Come on now.
Yeah.
Come on. Did he just
trauma
dump that again?
Are we trauma bonding because we get what she might have meant when she said she was tired? Good question. As a clinician, that's what I would explore. Because it very much could be trauma bonding by the fact that we have this common trauma of what it's like to be Black in America and dealing with the police and the whole thing of we keep what's in our house in our house. Right.
And you have to also understand dealing with anger, dealing with frustration, dealing with a time when Black men, they had families to feed and they're going out there, unfortunately, because of our race, they're being mistreated on the job. They've been called, the N-word. They're being called boy. They've been emasculated. And then you come home, but you can't say anything at that time because it could have been very fatal repercussions for Black men at that time. And then you come home and you take all that frustration out on your wife and your children because you don't get to be a man out there. But I want to reclaim my manhood in here.
That's one way to look at it.
Yeah, and it's redirecting, not in a good way, but really, you think about those things, and that's another thing that our community, we get it, we understand it, because a lot of us have seen it, especially people like us of a particular age. A lot of us grew up with that type of frustration from our fathers.
And you're hitting on why I do what I do. Because it's a beautiful thing when, first of all, let's just take folks that may bring it up as an example. That's not uncommon to the work that I do. I hear it in different forms, but I've been at work all day, dealing with these racist people, or just I'm at work all day when I'd rather be in my bed or doing something else. And then I come home and that's when their dynamic happens. It's a beautiful thing when we can slow it down and understand the validity of, I just want to be able to get in the house and kind of be able to come down. Well, you ain't got no problem talking to your friends when you come in the door or whatever. it has to be a thing that we understand what the need is at that point, and then we're able to adjust and tune into that need first of all. And then what naturally happens, like, oh, it isn't because you don't love me. It's really just because you're tired.
And you know what? That seems to be very difficult for women. I'm a woman because we want attention. We want attention. We want to be like, when you come home, it's like, oh, you've been gone from me. I know. I just want to know that I was your every thought and your and that you just couldn't wait to get home. Let me demonstrate how it goes wrong.
But baby, I want attention too.
I want attention too.
Yeah, interrupted.
Exactly.
That happens that naturally.
And that happens a lot, especially with women, I think, as a whole. And we want so much attention and validation. And but then men, and it's so true, that book, Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus, because we are so different. And I love the fact.
I have to admit, I didn't read it, and there's a reason.
Uh-oh. I want that reason in just a second. But I was going to say that what I love is the fact that you specialize in this therapy with Black men and Black families, because to me, it starts to bring a balance and a more clearer thought process of how to interact and how to heal as a person of color, because you're right. There's such a big cultural difference. I think there's a cultural difference even in the way we heal. I believe that. I truly believe that. Even in the way that we heal, because I think for us, we are very Black people have always been more. Even in the days of slavery, more spiritual, more, whatever. You've heard in the Black communities, there's no such thing. You just gotta just, heal it, which he will. But now we're seeing more that we can combine it, that you can get therapy, and God is working, because God still created the therapist for a reason. Okay, now I need to know. When Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. Go. Why you didn't read it? Give me this. I want to know this. I just want to know.
I think my mind has always been a scientific mind. And so it merely just means I'm going to go to the sources that have some research behind them. Not saying that book doesn't. The impression I had, it was kind of like, yeah, this might be an opinion. And that was just my perception.
Yeah.
And I said, I just really haven't been enthused about going and reading it.
Yeah.
Now I hear it referenced so much, like even right now, I'm like, I may go read it just so I can be able to connect with folks that may go to that resource as their what I'm going to say, their resource. I mean, that's their book that they use.
Yeah, for them to get some clarity,
their reference
points,
that's what it is, reference.
Or what they feel like might help them in their situation, or whatever.
I prefer to use references that have a research backing, and they've been validated that the things that are being asserted in what's being read is actually been researched. And so we can say scientifically that this thing is true and it's not just somebody's opinion. And
this is what makes you a phenomenal therapist.
Well, thank you.
I got one more question for you before we, I could sit here all day, y'all, but I know, y'all not trying to sit with me like for the next 2-3 hours. So, but one of the things that I wanted to also ask is, with all these podcasts and relationship videos, and I mean, they sound sophisticated. They sound like they really have research and they know it. They've got it down pat. Now, they even have on YouTube where you can just listen to them talking. You don't even have to see the person, but it's a podcaster, but you can just listen to them stating about what to do, relationships, when a man pulls back, when a woman does this, they're talking about all these podcasts, and they're telling you, oh, this is why this is happening to you, or this is why if a man does this, if a woman, and everyone is so different situations. And something I was watching last night, and I'm getting to my point, that I love that this lady said, I was watching on YouTube, and I love, she said, does anybody read a book anymore? Does anybody just interact with people and just talk to people and just find out, I like you, I like me, I like that, maybe I don't like that. She said, does anybody do that anymore?
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts?
To her question, do people do that?
No, what I'm saying about this, I'm saying I like what she said, but it was in, she kind of what I'm saying with all the podcasts and all this. Right. It's supposed to be, this is the way you live.
My mind just goes straight to check the source. Is the assertions, the things that are being said on anything, the podcast, Marc talking right now. If you can't go and verify the validity of what's being said, now I'm a scientist, so it means that it's been researched and it says, okay, we put this in this condition and we know this to be true. You just put that reference in its proper place. The proper place might be, okay, it sounds true to me. So that's why I think that men are from Mars and women are from Venus. My caution would be, and this is what I do in my sessions, is we identify maybe the rigid position that we take in any given moment in our interactions. It's the rigidity that causes the problem. I have a little phrase I think I'm going to try to coin. Let me see what it was. Rigidity is the nemesis to relationship. In the therapy that I do, we want to be very clear on the very valid position each person takes in the interaction. But that rigid position is also keeps them like this and feeling disconnected. So that's where the somatic comes in. We want to get the conditions and have the interaction be one where there's a little bit of movement that's starting. That's why you see me doing a lot of with dance and everything. It's not just because I enjoy it. It's also because I think it's very therapeutic.
Right. Because he's a dancer, guys. I think you're a dance instructor.
Yeah.
You teach, what kind of dance? Side note.
Kizomba, Simba.
I love it. And I love it. He was helping me dance a little bit. We were doing a little salsa when we met. That's how I met him. We were doing a little dance instructing little event. It was great. But yes.
But that movement though, rigidity is the nemesis to relationship. If we take a strong position, that's what has us be disconnected. So when we're talking about relationships, being able to gain that flexibility, like we said, ARE conversations, can I at least be accessible as opposed to, boom, shut the door and be done with it.
Yeah. Or like when I say I give up.
Or the other, I'm talking so loud, you can't get a word in. I'm not accessible. No. I'm gone.
Yeah.
Right? So rigidity, those rigid positions, those things that we do that contribute to our sense of disconnection, we're going to identify that dance that we do. And a big part of it is when we tune into our partner's emotions, though, it kind of gets us out of our position and we can go over to theirs. So now we're starting to have some movement as opposed to that rigid, can't even hear you. This is what I believe. You know what I'm saying? And we experienced that even prior to this. Every time I heard men this, men that, I was like, last time I checked, I'm a man, and what you're saying is not true about me. We start to understand the dance that we do. Nobody's the bad guy.
Yeah.
But we understand how it can go in this infinity loop and we get stuck in this way of interacting.
Yeah.
One way is we realize the rigid positions that we might take and how we contribute to that dance on a negative level. But then in every session, we're going to do what's called an encounter or an enactment, where we actually do the corrective behavior. And we experience that, and we have a bonding moment. And that bonding moment stays in our system, stays in our body. Right? So we're back to trauma bonding. If in my interaction with you has been that you just gonna cuss me out every single time, and I can't get out my mouth what I want to say or whatever, that's small t trauma. At that point, it's an attachment injury. I'm just not going to do it no more. Right. That's what contributes to us being disconnected. I've taken a rigid position now that I can't get a word in with you, so I'm just not going to do it.
Right.
You don't never speak. You just always keep it to yourself. All he does is go in that garage and hang out with his frat brothers and drink beer.
Oh my God, Marc. Thank you so much. This has been absolutely wonderful. This has been wonderful. Thank you so much for sitting down with me on What's Hot with Jazzie. This has been a pleasure. Before we go, if anyone, if you live in the Triangle area, in the Carolinas, or if, I don't know if you do virtual.
I do virtual.
If you could just give information, if anyone is interested in contacting you and getting a little bit of help.
Sure. It's pretty simple. MarcHardyTherapy.com. MarcHardy therapy.com. You can reach me there. I have it's called an Are We a Fit consultation. It's a free consultation. It's up to 30 minutes where we can actually talk about what it is that you might be even interested in coming to therapy about. But the main goal is for you to get all your questions answered, for you to make your decision if you want to move forward with therapy. I also do an activity. It's called Kizomba Na Rua. Kizomba means party. Na Rua means in the street. Kizomba is a partner dance from Angola. Cultural connection, that's why I got into it. Simba was a protest, the protest of I'm going to live my life and enjoy life regardless of the circumstances. And we did it in a dance. Right?
Oh, I love that.
So Kizomba Na Rua, there's one coming up June 29th. You can go to my site. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram. Instagram is Mr.MarcHardy. Facebook is Marc Hardy, and then my website, get you all that also, MarcHardyTherapy.com.
I love it. Thank you so much. Fantastic. Thank you so much. Oh, this was great. This was great. And thank you again for watching another fantastic episode of What's Hot with Jazzie. I'm your host, Jazzie Carrington. And until next time, I'm out.
Bye-bye.